It says go. We're good.
Now we gotta wait for the train.
Oh, good news, we can do our hearing pretty quick.
Alrighty, folks. Y'all hear me okay out here? Okay, good deal. We're gonna go ahead and get this started. Sorry for the delay. At 7:10 p.m. we'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum present, all present, minus Mr. Lee Usan. Allegiance and invocation. Okay,
It was just for the.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll remain standing for invocation, and I will ask Pastor, do you mind praying for tonight, please?
Father, we thank you. We give you glory. We give you praise. We thank you for this day. We thank you for this gathering. Father, we ask that you release your guidance and instruction, and keep things all in order and in decency. Continue to bless the council members, to include the mayor. Continue to bless this community of Bartlett, Texas. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor. We're going to citizens communication, and for non-agenda items, we didn't have anybody sign up. Moving on. The boards, commissions, committees, presentations, and proclamations. Mr. Rosenberg?
If we can, if you like, we can go straight to item number 5 and 6, and then we can circle back to the remaining items.
So moving on to item number 5, we'll do the citizen recognition, something that we do here periodically throughout the year. And tonight we've brought in some very familiar face to the community, a gentleman that's been the heart and soul of Bartlett for many, many, many years, way longer than I've been in Bartlett myself. Roughly, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, maybe 27, 28 years ago, you first heard about Bartlett, saw a grocery store for sale. Traveled right, your little young daughter at that time to Bartlett. Wound up buying this grocery store here in Bartlett, Texas. Ran it for 26 years, alongside your wife and kids and your daughter, and now you've turned the keys over to the great Emily, and she's doing a fantastic job and carrying on your legacy there, and doing a wonderful job for this community. And you're actually hopefully enjoying some retirement. And so, Mr. Larry B, I'm going to call you Larry B.
That's right.
Because I know I'm going to butcher the last name. Larry, one day, I believe it's been winter storm Uri. We had about 8 or 10 inches of snow on the ground, ice, and I ran into Larry out making deliveries while I was delivering some blankets to some community members. And just to see a man still out knee-deep in snow and ice, risking his own vehicle, his own hips, back, arms, whatever you want to call it, to go out into the community and deliver those hot meals and groceries to the community, and you know, extending lines of credit for people in Bartlett, you know, so they would have food on the table, delivering those hot meals and groceries to so many community members. Larry, we want to recognize you tonight with our Outstanding Citizenship Award. So, it's got your real name on there. Red and White Grocery and Meat Market. with a certificate of appreciation for your time and efforts in establishing a local institution that faithfully served Bartlett residents for generations and stands as a cornerstone, family first business in our community. So Larry, if you don't mind, we'll stand up over here.
Anybody else want to take pictures or want to get
Thank you all. Larry,
Mr. Jesse, can you send me those pictures?
I hope so. Thank you all.
Jesse got some good pictures. Sure, it was short, man.
Item number 6. You ready for this?
I sure am.
Employee recognition.
Alrighty, I can do this one, yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the same light as the citizen recognition, we also like to recognize from time to time the staff of the city administration. City council can come up with the best ideas in the world, but if the organization and the employees that make it run aren't up to a certain quality and a certain standard, then this couldn't happen. So with that in mind, we recently had a staff member who was out on extended medical leave. And so two of our administrative clerks in the front office really stepped up and made sure that the service delivery did not fall off from that staff shortage. And recently, the city adopted a set of organizational values. We like to use the RICH acronym for reliability, for always answering the call to service, innovation, new challenges require new ideas, teamwork, faster alone but further together, customer above and beyond is the standard, and honor, serving our community with integrity. So with that being said, I would like to recognize Ms. Alice and Ms. Rose for embodying the values of reliability, teamwork, and customer service. If anybody has dealings with the city, then you know who Rose and Alice are.
Like a breath of
She'll never trust us again.
Way to go, Joseph.
Thank y'all for allowing us to do that tonight. Joseph, you want to circle back to number one?
Yes,
Cemetery
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hold up here. 1 second. Okay, cemetery. The cemetery board met Friday, September 2nd, at 9:30 a.m. here at City Hall. Larry and Miss Kathy attended. Bids were obtained for sandblasting and painting the cemetery fence were discussed, as well as individual project progress and recent burials. The next meeting of the board will be October 7th, 2022. So they are continuing their efforts in mapping out and documentary as they go along. Okay.
All right. Tyner Memorial Library Board.
One more thing
Oh,
to add
one
to
more
that thing.
thing.
If anybody goes out there, we've been trimming a lot of trees and everything and kind of beautifying everything so they can see the flags for the American Legion and everything else. And the right organ, I've been out there, and the city's picked up, I think, 3 loads of things.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you, Mr. That it? Moving on, item number 2, the Tyner Memorial Library Board monthly update.
Yes.
Oh, Jennifer, you have it?
So there were 32 visits this month, 3 new library cards were issued, 16 checkouts, 4 computer visits, 1 program held this month, 5 guest visitors, and 66 volunteer hours spent. And this month's book club book is Sharp Objects. Volunteers who are doing that, and hopefully some exciting new things to come with that reconfiguration.
Yes.
Susan is kind of leading the charge with that.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it really
Does
does.
look nice. I went by today. It's very nice.
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
I think that the gist of that is, and not Susan can absolutely add something, but I think it's worth saying that, the library is becoming more modern and we're kind of reflecting the idea of modern uses of the library, so it's better. So if you haven't stopped by the library, do so soon.
Thank you. Susan, you got anything to add? Good.
Come to the library.
Come to the library. All right, perfect. Moving on, item number 3, Municipal Development District MDD monthly update.
Yes, sir. The MDD met on, let me pull up there. And on September 6th, they discussed the city broadband project, and they approved the first payment of $3,500. That is a contribution for the infrastructure cost for the broadband project. We received that invoice from Bartlett Electric Co-op that has since been sent to the MDD to issue the payments. The city has also, in light of that broadband project, placed the order for the utility poles that the fiber line will be placed upon. So once we get that in, and a few other housekeeping items, we will have the granting proposal by Red and White. I believe Ms. Beverly was unable to attend at this meeting, so they tabled that item, and they discussed receiving future bids or additional bids for the City Park Pavilion project that relates to the concrete pad underneath the pavilion, where it's kind of fractured now, but we're hoping to get that prepared.
Another bit or two.
Perfect. Awesome. And that is all they met about.
Parks and Facilities Committee monthly update.
Yes, sir. We are getting ready to solicit for bids related to the city hall upgrades. Granted that each part of the phase that we're anticipating to be a 2-phase project. Phase 1 would be where the administrative staff is currently. It would fix the foundation in there, and phase 2 would be the council chamber component. Each component would be underneath the state bidding requirement, which is $50,000. That because the total allocation for both phases is approximately you're up to $60,000. It would be in our best interest to bid out each individual phase to make sure we comply with that procurement requirement. So we will issue the bid, again, the scope of work for phase one, which is that interior section in there. And we will bring that back to council to award that phase. Some of the considerations we have for timeline are the November 8th election. So any work that needs to be done to clear out this size for the early voting, which is, I believe, late October through November 8th for voting day. So outside of that, we will continue to provide updates on that project.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Item number 7, we'll receive monthly department reports. We'll receive all these reports and accept item 7.
We attended a East Williamson County pre-legislative summit that was hosted by the Taylor Chamber of Commerce. In addition to that, I also attended a monthly city manager administrator luncheon where several of our regional cities were in attendance, including Rockdale, Cameron, Caldwell, Rogers, and several other regional areas. And I was able to get some insight on the dynamics of our region. So I could read off a few of the interesting components that are under discussion. For those that are unaware, the Samsung development has drastically increased in scope. And with that includes more jobs from Samsung. Mission was at the summit, and they reported that for each one Samsung employee, it's going to generate 5.7 additional jobs in support of that one Samsung employee. So what that means is you're about to see, if you haven't already noticed it, a drastic ripple effect of businesses and influx of supporting businesses of Samsung, not just in Taylor. Taylor is limited size, but you're talking Hutto, you're talking south and to Elgin, you're talking right up our corridor. Granger, Bartlett, Holland, we're right off 79. The Ronald Reagan Expressway will directly bisect with 35 and 79 between Bartlett and Granger. So we are primed for extreme growth and development within the next few years. Some of the other regional notes were the city of Hutto recently, I believe, was selected for a massive data center that's going to double their tax base from 4.5 billion to 9 billion from one development. So that's an extremely big deal. The RCR Rail Park between Hutto and Taylor is also going to be a key driver of all of this. Invest multi-million and multi-billion dollars worth of water infrastructure and energy infrastructure. You're talking transmission lines to support all of this growth. You're talking about water to support all of this growth. And the key takeaway from this summit were those two items itself, water and power. And with ERCOT being located in Taylor, and now with a mega chip factory located in Taylor, and the RCR Rail Park and the data support of Samsung, one of the topics of conversation was this region is going to become an area of national security based off of that right there. So you're going to see a lot of rebound or ripple effects from that as well. Outside of that, the legislative is going to meet, and one of the biggest topics of discussion is property tax. And right now, there are two key factors that protect residential homeowners on the property tax side, and that is the 10% homestead cap. So no matter how protection for citizens that have a homestead. In addition to that, cities and taxing units are beholden to a 3.5% increase on taxable value, or I believe it's M&O, the tax rate. And so the higher your property values go, your taxable values in the city go, the tax rate the city can adopt without going to a citizen petition or without going to an election ballot is capped at 3.5%. So there are plenty of protections in place there. It's not just the real property, but the personal property occupied in that business as well. So from kind of the sentiment from that summit is that the personal property may be an item of discussion for that. But all of these are relevant items. All of these are relevant items.
Time is up.
As it relates to the growth of the city of Bartlett, the financial health, the infrastructure upgrades to the city, and quite a few things. So very exciting time, and we're ready to move forward. I'll provide some more updates later on the agenda.
All right, city secretary, he gets 3 more. There you go. He's double dipping tonight. Mr. Secretary, go ahead.
Don't have much to report on the city secretary side.
No, don't let me stop.
Just-
Go ahead.
Just the agenda. Put the agenda together.
Municipal court.
Yes. All right. Municipal court. Court was not held on August 27th, or it should have been held on August 27th. Total amount collected for August was $6,438. 4,388 of that was kept by the city, and 1,671 paid to the state. And that's all we got.
What? Fines collected by MVBA?
MVBAs are our debt collection folks, and so they went out and
They collected how much?
$743.
Oh, I thought you said thousand.
He said $743,000. Woohoo! Projects.
Sorry.
Development
Quiet
services.
down, Mr. Chair.
Just left, so you want to do development services?
I have that one. Okay, absolutely. $2,750 in total fees were collected. All of that was residential. We paid $150 in plan reviews.
That's where the money went.
We had 11 residential. We have 3 pending permits in review, 1 commercial, 2 residential. ATS completed 16 inspections, and we have 2 inspections awaiting for scheduling. So as you can see, a lot of residential development, a lot of residential growth. That is the infill development that we'll talk about later on the agenda as well. But that's important. It's important for developing these vacant lots. Now you're adding utility dollars. You're improving the assessed value of these lots. So it again relates back to the financial health of the city.
Fantastic.
Total billing was $240,977. That's correct. We had 725 paper bills, 217 e-bills. We had 2 new residents, and we have 30 households on payment plan. So again, that's still like a pretty small percentage of our total utility accounts, which is a very good sign. Very good sign.
We're counting new residents now. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Public Works.
All right. Our guys completed 133 work orders, and 22 are still assigned. That includes utility connects, utility disconnects, utility rereads, tree trimming, utility locates, water leaks, sewer taps, water taps, street and grounds. So our guys certainly remain busy throughout any month. But again,
Do we have a police report? I know Chief says Chief School. So.
we sure do.
Questions?
Okay, they had 102 total calls for service. They had 6 priority 1, 16 priority 2, 38 priority 3, and 42 priority 4. And I believe, the higher the number, the lower the severity, if that makes sense. So priority 1 is your most extreme, life blaring calls. Priority 4 is more of your standard call outs, so to speak. If anything, standard on PD, but 102 calls for service.
That it? All right, that's item 7 in the consent agenda. We need a motion. You want him to go back through that all again? Or?
I'll make a motion that we accept the monthly department grants, reports, not grants, except for consent agenda.
Item seven.
Item 7, there we
Vicky
go.
Cooper's made a motion to accept item 7. on the consent agenda. Dale Johnson seconded. Favor? 4-0. Item number 8, approved minutes from the regular following meetings. August 8th, 2022 regular meeting, August 25th, 2022 special meeting. Those items, minutes are here in your packets. Get a motion. Mr. Weaver has made a motion.
A second.
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver made a motion. Ms. Cooper's second that.
Mhm.
All right, moving on, item number, public hearings. We do have public hearings tonight, and we are far past the posted time on those, so we're good. Item number 9, hold public hearing to consider adopting fiscal year 2023 budget.
Sure, and can you state the official time of the public hearing?
It
again?
is starting at 7:39 p.m. Item 9.
If any members of the public would like to make any comment, proposed fiscal year 2023 budget at this time, now would be the time to do so.
Anybody have any comments?
From city council?
This is gonna require a roll call vote.
We'll just need a motion to approve the adoption of the budget, proposed budget, a second, and then at that point, we'll take a roll call vote.
So should we just read this part?
And the ordinance. You want me to read the ordinance?
You can just read the header at the top. of
I'm
the
just
mo-
gonna read that header. What do you think?
That's fine. So we need a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance of the city of Bartlett, Texas, approving the budget for the fiscal year and ending September 30th, 2023, providing appropriations for each fund, providing for the filing of the budget in the office of the city secretary, providing a savings clause, and providing for an effective date. And that's ordinance number 2022-0912-09.
Cooper has made a motion. Second. Mr. Weaver has seconded. Here we will start a roll call vote, and we'll go with Mayor Pro Tem Weaver.
Yay.
So yes. Change your mind. Councilmember Vicky Cooper,
Yay.
member Jesse Little, and Ray Toussaint is absent. And you read my vote?
Only in a time.
You're lying before him. So that motion does carry 4-0. So. Moving on, item number 10, hold public hearing to consider adopting
If there are any comments from city council or the citizens as it relates to the proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2023, now would be the time to do so. If you like, Mayor, I can,
Any comments, citizens? So same thing, we'll need a motion.
and if you look at the ordinance for the tax rate, there is specific language to state in the motion. I believe, Councilmember.
Make a motion duly passed and approved by the City Council of the City of Bartlett, Texas on this 12th day of September 2022 by the following motion. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.554900 per $100 valuation. This tax 0.8700 on each $100 valuation of property for the maintenance and operation of general government fund, and 0.116200 for each $100 valuation of property for the interest and sinking fund, with the following roll call vote.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Cooper. We have a motion on the table. Jones, second that. We'll do another roll call vote. Mayor Pro Tem Weaver.
Yay.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yay.
Councilmember Jones. Councilmember Luna.
Yes, sir.
And Ray Eason is absent tonight. That motion carries 4-0. All right, then, moving on, the regular agenda. Finally. Item number 11, discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to R2 zoning area regulations for pre-existing parcels that do not meet the minimum lot size requirements. We do have a citizen communication on this one.
Mayor and council, if it would
Go ahead.
be okay with
That's-
all, I would love to kind of listen to the discussion, and if there's anything that I would like to add, and at that point, can I then have the citizen comment?
Absolutely, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you're fine where you're at. You know, you just had knee surgery, so we don't want to. You don't have to walk to the camera.
Well, my walker can.
Doesn't have tennis balls on the bottom, man.
Oh, so it's illegal.
All right, so Joseph, you want to fill us in on this one, sir?
Yes, sir. So this whole discussion at council for several weeks now, if not longer. But basically, there are quite a few lots in town that are from the original plat from the city, from what we can tell. And I'll throw this up on the screen here. So this map is from 1954, if I'm remembering correctly. And if you can see, there's quite a few very narrow lots within the city. And our current zoning ordinance, it states a minimum lot size requirement of 7,500 square feet. Well, as you can see, quite a few more of those lots that are still currently reflected in that size and length with the county appraisal district do not meet that minimum lot size requirement. So we reviewed several different strategies, one of which was potentially amending the R2 zoning ordinance to include language that would solve the minimum lot size requirement, so to speak. Since these were, what's the term, plotted back in the 1950s, the R2 zoning ordinance was adopted in 1966. So these lot sizes were essentially created prior to the adoption of the R2 zoning ordinance. Therefore, when it comes to the implementation of the minimum lot size requirement, in the R2 zoning ordinance, these are, the general term would be grandfathered in or exempt from this requirement because they were, again, established prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance. On a number of items, it takes care of everything that was addressed or created prior to the adoption of zoning ordinance, but it also takes care of every future development that has potentially R2 zoning. Anything in the future that is newly platted needs to meet the minimum lot size requirement, so it also takes care of that. Anything that is currently, so the existing lots would still need to meet the setback requirements and every other area regulation within the R2 zoning ordinance. The only exception would be to the minimum lot size requirement. That is an update on that item. If there's any thoughts from council.
The other concern I have with that is when you go to the, I think it's 5 foot on each side for single story.
Mhm.
How do we address parking with those as far as street, yard?
That'll be a longer discussion. I do know that
The 5 foot setback is for the side properties. You have a further setback on the front property and on the rear of the property.
and so front and rear parking.
Yes.
And I believe it's anything over 4 living units, over 4 would require the fire marshal to get involved as it relates to safety, emergency standards. But everything that we've heard would suggest that only, say, duplexes or smaller multifamily units are under consideration. So it would be 4 or below.
If you go vertical and you go more than 1 story, then your setback lines get 10 feet on sides. So you come in at, another 5 feet. Front and the rear will stay the same because it's a percentage, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. See it.
Lot frontage, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, the frontage.
Lot frontage is 75.
No.
No, that's the
The setback.
I got it.
setbacks. Yeah.
The front yard, there shall be a front yard of not less than 25 feet to the front line of the building.
The length of depth of lot, I believe.
It's right there. The rear yard, there shall be a rear yard having a depth of not less than 20% of the depth of the lot, provided such rear yard not exceed 25 feet for interior lots or 15 feet for corner lots. And then there is a side yard component as well.
So after doing the setback lines on this particular, after doing the setback on a single story residence structure, could be multifamily, multi-units, or a single family, there was still enough after doing your setbacks, front yard, backyard, and side yards on a single, there was still 3,400 square feet of building space for the structure. 3,700.
3470.
3,470. I had the numbers right.
And for reference, that's about,
3,470.
that's about as big as this space. Right?
Yeah, so it'd be roughly, maybe even a little bit bigger. I think this is 2,800 square feet, this room we're sitting in. So that would be a little bit bigger than this one.
It's pretty good size. Pretty good.
If that helps anybody's references on that. So, Mr. Cooper, did you have any more comments?
I don't have any questions. I think you're covered.
Okay. So, what's the action video?
It's just an update.
This-
It's basically written correct.
Yeah, because it reverts back to the plot predates the ordinance before. Good. Yes.
Did any of the ordinance change from the time that lot? Was there a different ordinance with setbacks to match those size lots back in 1954 versus 2005? And if there was, wouldn't that be grandfathered in?
I'm not sure what the ordinance that preceded the 1966 ordinance, I'm not sure what that stated, but all we can do is just move forward with what we have documented.
Any other questions? Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? No action needed on that one. Moving on, item number 12, discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to developing variance guidelines with city attorney and setting hearing date regarding R2 area CAD parcel ID R007706.
Yes, sir. And that is this one here. So, City Council, Mayor, this agenda item is to direct myself and/or the mayor to work with the city attorney to draft the variance guidelines for this particular lot that's presented on the board here. For those that don't have the agenda, east part of the lot. Previously, we discussed a variance to the zoning use, so a manufactured home on the lot. However, that was not proceeded with, so this would be the next step, and that would be a single-family home on this lot, which is eligible under the zoning ordinance for the use. But the setback requirements due to the street would need to be addressed. It would not be able to meet the minimum setback requirements based off of its current language. So in order to consider a variance or special exception, we have to set a time and date for a hearing. And that requires posting requirements, sending out mailed letters to every homeowner or landowner within 200 feet of the proposed property, and so forth. So I would recommend that if council decides a variance for the setback requirements, I would recommend that it align with our next regular council meeting. That way it gives plenty of time to do the required notices. And I do know that I believe October 10th is Columbus Day, which is a city holiday. So it can either be on the 10th or it can be on the 11th.
But on the 11th, then it's called a special.
That's nice.
The Columbus Day.
Cheeseburger day off too.
For work.
So the variance, this one's up for variance discussion is because obviously there's a city street running through this gentleman's lot, which is something that we've discussed for the last 3 to 4 months. We've kind of put that to bed. Now he's asking, he's wanting to put a structured home on this house, on this lot, not a manufactured home, because we've already said no to that. And we want to put a house, if I'm correct, would be facing Kimball Street. No?
No.
Facing Elm.
What's the point with that? I mean, the house is gonna
The
be,
front, and the side, but also we
Yes, Mr.
need clearance from the right of way.
the house, I give you the map, that's what I wanna ask you.
Come on, sir.
The house, the face is 40 feet wide, so that means I have to cross the road. So it's not, you get the drawing map I give you last day. Right? 40 feet wide or 20, it is long. But there is no way I can put it like that, there's no room. Now I was, see, because what is gone. Like, what I wanna do is just, I wanna put it like that. What is gonna be like over there and like trying to do like the others. You can see it that way.
Yes, sir.
But it's gonna be 5 feet away from the road. It's gonna be very close. I prefer you guys reconsider it again. The manufactured house is gonna be far away, even from the electric poles, where you can see them. Most suspected. Last time you speak about the drawing I give you a long time ago, and the real reason I asked in the section of the look at it, what is my pin? It's taking all the portion is like 8 feet, what the neighbor is taking, the line you can see clear, close the road. It is I mean, and you guys, police and everybody saying they get easement about that.
with the easement.
So if you recall, there is, in addition to the
And then I
street,
could remove my name.
there is a,
Mark is gone, so I told the officer, to you, who's gonna find the mark, who's going to this?
there is
So don't look it up, that thing.
the power pole that goes along this way. So part of the creation of the variance guidelines that we talked about would include establishing a distance from the right of way in which the setbacks would begin, and then also the utility easement as well. And we've already discussed with our linemen about how we can reconfigure this power line here. This is a dead end pole that but readjusted to provide the same power, but in a little cleaner format. Correct. To help accommodate what he wants to do.
Yeah, manufactured house is, we measure I measure together with you, right? And manufactured house is that long, this fits perfect. I'm okay with that, I told you one time, to you guys, I give you all day, I'm okay with it. And if you get into loads means space, but other ways, this diet, you get it.
Roxanne Brown, I'm the realtor that helped him buy this, and he likes to call me in to help him sometimes. I was looking at it on the tax records, and currently that particular lot right now, the county has zoned for manufacturing. And the lot number 2 is actually zoned for commercial. 3 and 4, I know that man has come in and asked to be able to put a manufactured home in those lots as well. The county has those zoned for. It is an Elm Street address, and if you allow a manufactured home, it would fit fine, and even then, that utility easement would have to be removed. The other thing that I've stressed multiple times calling into the city is, there is no easement for that road, okay? The easement is just for the utilities, and he is willing to have the city now, in this date and time, because that easement is from 1972, to draft an easement for the road. But that easement needs to be drafted, which is 11 or 12 feet from his pin, and not in from the pin and then the road. The road needs to start where his pin is and in. So that's something else that needs to be addressed at some point. I know right now, I'm talking to Joseph that, we're just here to talk about setting up a hearing for a structure, but I would like to see it reopened and discuss a manufactured home, because there are multiple dilapidated buildings in that area, and manufactured homes that he has been putting on the lots that he owns are not dilapidated. And on that lot, and it would provide housing for people that they could afford it, So I would really like to see y'all reopen.
Wait, not the manufacturing. If lot 2, what do you say, lot 2 and lot 3 are
Lot 2
zoned?
is zone commercial, and lot 3 and 4 is commercial, so they never meant to buy lot 3 and 4.
Can we
Our
put the
zoning
clip?
doesn't show
Doesn't
that.
show.
Can we put it?
Our zoning doesn't show that.
And I actually, the zoning here,
So here is Kimball. It's hard to
yeah,
see on there, but that's Kimball Street. Here's Elm Street. These bottom 2 are zoned R3, therefore you can put a manufactured home.
Okay.
These top 2 are R2. So it would have required either a variance to the zoning use or a rezone itself. And both of those were not continued. We discussed that at the council level before, and that's why we've arrived at this next step.
but if you do look at what the county has, like I said, the county is showing manufactured home on lot 1 and commercial on all the other lots.
Please,
Showing it C1.
please keep in mind that the agenda item is to just set the hearing date for this.
Yeah.
So we don't want to get too far off track,
That's fine.
because it's not supposed to be under discussion right now, but
We set a time and date for that.
I'll second that.
we just need a time and date. A motion for the time and date.
The next meeting will be October 10th.
That map, when you put it before, we just kind of report to me,
Hang on.
the previous, you can see the Kimball Street is very straight, and you can see the road. Who is possible now is the wheel, the road, who built the road? I mean,
They just started using it out there.
this
and-
is pretty much, when they did the electric poles, So they just follow the track, they don't respect. It's like right now, nobody respects me, you know about it.
Mhm.
And I go 3 times or something like that, the police. I can call out of that and it's still being like, I wanna work for you guys all the time. That's what I told you once. I don't want you guys like intimidate me like last week, 2 weeks ago. They called and said they're going to be violations about the fence. I need to move because I cannot move it. I will lose more of the space. This is the reason. Rose goes there and we measure. And we measure everything.
We
And
need to
and
have
she's all like,
a hearing before we have the next
and
council
see, it was
meeting.
in the school.
We
the
did just like we
schools-
did tonight where the public hearings are.
I need at least 15 days to
We gotta
post all
send out
that.
letters to,
So would we have our meeting on the 10th of October?
we gotta post it in the newspaper.
I'll be here,
Okay.
but it's up to you guys.
Do y'all wanna have it on Columbus Day or do y'all wanna push it to the next week or the next day? I know y'all got some things to do on Columbus Day.
Okay.
Isn't that like where you're going like buy the white, so isn't that like white cheese and stuff like that?
So October the
Isn't
11th.
it? I mean, it's like when they run all the sales on the lemons, right? I'm old, I mean, I know lemons.
January.
Whatever.
Linens?
Dude, I'm telling you, that's when Macy's runs their big sale on cheese. I'm telling y'all, yeah.
He's got that Kohl's cash shape, save that.
When y'all see the ad come out in the newspaper, you're gonna think of me.
So the-
Columbus Day sales.
Yeah, we just need a motion to set the hearing date for,
I move that motion.
Are we doing it on Columbus Day?
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver makes a motion for October 11th. Did you specify time? 6 o'clock?
Yeah, do 6. Hour before.
This is the regular meeting night?
It's a regular meeting now, right?
All that things is
Tuesday.
important. I don't know. Hey guys, it was brilliant. But the neighborhood, what I talked about.
It'll take an hour to get through.
When he reads my mirrors, the electric and everything, why he put it like different numbers? Why he don't put it correct numbers? Why my bill's too high? I can't. And Rose, she fixed it for me, so then they charge me that price. Now I got another bill, and this is kind of 400 and something for that.
Mhm.
And, I mean, it's only me and my family, and I want to see if they're really working. I told you bunch of times about it. He mows his own yard, wasn't about tractors, mowers from the city. I told you one time, you say he can always the hours from the city to do his own job. He's still doing it. I mean, last week, they electric right for him. I don't know why he does it. I know, I understand that gives me just make me kind of like angry or something. They mow it every other week. The post and the front, my like losing the excuses the city has is because of the road. Last week they mowed my whole back, what my chicken coop is, my whole backyard. They mowed the whole thing. My wife there. No, the grass is growing right now. The little grass is growing. They mow it. You couple of grasses there, they mow. I mean, I'm okay with it. Why I get free mowing?
At a later date.
We have a motion on the table.
We have a
Councilmember Cooper seconds.
I speak there and I bring those pictures. I don't want to steal much.
Cooper second that motion.
I don't really think it.
Thank you.
Looks
We'll be
like
right here.
they take it personally. I mean,
All in favor? 4-0. Thank y'all. Item number 13, discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to mobile food establishment permit, MFE permit. Jennifer, whenever you'd like to speak, you want us to discuss first, or would you like to speak first?
I'll just comment as needed if there's, or ask questions as needed.
Thank you. Yes, we did.
Okay. Mayor, City Council, if you recall, we discussed this at our last special meeting. We basically are using the city of Round Rock's mobile food establishment, short or long-term permit as a template of the city of Bartlett. Why is this under discussion? Well, there is a potential food trailer park in development here in the city. And our current food trailer process includes a $25 permit for 1 month of operation for a food truck. So if you have a multi-spot food trailer park that could potentially be interchanged at any interval with different food trailers, is there a way that would streamline that process at the food trailer and the property owner? And so that is why we are discussing this here. Now, on the short term, that is for issued for up to three consecutive days, and no more than 4 permits may be issued per year. On the long-term mobile food establishment permit, they are issued for the calendar year, so from January to December. If you recall, the last thing that we discussed was adding requirements for grease traps, also for just drew a blank there, I'm so sorry. I don't know if it's fire suppression. Backflow prevention. Yes, sir. So we reviewed with our permit clerk. There are a few things that are already required of food trailers. I believe, Mary, you have that bullet point list.
Yes, we have, in order to obtain a vendor permit or vendor permit exempt with the city of Garter, please provide authorization letter from property owner of location where you will be posted for business, proof of past food truck inspection that may also food manager certification, proof of sales tax for either Bell County or Williams County, depending on where you're setting. List of goods being sold or a food menu, driver's license and proof of ID of owner operator, bill and address and contact information for business and business owner, and then the $25 payment to issue a vendor permit good for 1 month post date of issuance. That's our current rules.
So are there any additional, so we talked about grease trap. Is there anything in addition to that or as a part of that?
Concern on the, and I need to do some research on this, is that, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I need to check with what the plumbing code actually says about grease traps. In this situation, it might be a separate grease interceptor could be done on the side above ground where grease and things could be, discarded. But we have to maybe potentially install a test well on each line that goes to the sewer. Maybe 1, maybe 2. I don't know how many of these actual tie-ins we have. But I need to check with the plumbing code to see what that commercial applications, like in kitchens, commercial kitchens and stuff, they do require grease trap and a test port. It might be that we can get by with doing a test port and then have a separate grease receptor that people could dump their grease into. What we do not need and do not want to have happen is get a bunch of grease in our sewer system. It's going to wreak havoc on our system.
Especially from the infrastructure upgrades that we're doing at our lift station,
Exactly.
Can be a real issue.
So, and the other thing I kind of read here, this other request from not clear if they're bringing in multiple food trailers in that year, or if they're having a single or 1 or 2 food trailers there for a year. So with that, if you're going to have more chance of something happening or going wrong, grease waste and things like that, if you got multiple trailers coming in and out all the time. So I just think we need to consider that, discuss that, make sure that we're protecting our sewage treatments best we can.
So as it relates to in its intent, is it something where it would be more favorable, or its intent would be to accommodate spots that see multiple different trailers used for it, or is it something where it's intended for one trailer for one spot for an extended period of time? Or would that be part of the dual application of it, short term or long term?
Multiple trailers over the course of the year.
I think the answer is both.
Yeah.
So, no one food trailer is going to move in a restaurant, it's a mobile food park. And so there's never a guarantee, and that's the whole point of being a trailer, is that it can move. And so currently, because we do actually have permits, the trailers that are on site at the moment, and we have a third one moving in tomorrow, which will have a permit that's renewed. It had a permit, it will have it renewed. All of our food trailers have grease traps on site, so if you walk by it today, you can see that there's a giant grease trap outside. And so the reason for that is that we don't have an ordinance requiring the cost and the expense of installing something, and then it not meeting ordinance for the code. So as soon as we know what that is, we can install that, but Rick's got some.
It was gonna be a standalone grease trap that's not tied into any, sewage, so they can't dump it down in there, so it's basically something they'll dump their grease into, then a third party comes out.
And that's what I was talking about with the plumbing code, is
Yeah.
that you can do a sample well that can be tested from time to time, and if that above ground grease has multiple uses, then that would be something I think we want to consider, and actually, it makes more sense,
Yeah.
you know, and less cost, more cost effective.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think it's worth noting that there's not access into the sewer system.
There is drain.
Yeah, they would drink.
Yes,
Every
but
side.
they won't be,
They're
the
high.
last thing you want is grease in your soup.
Right.
So,
But they're high, they're not.
yeah.
Well, gray water waste and things like that are fine, but grease is just not.
Right, yeah.
Well, we just need to know what to do to install once we know. what
Right.
install is
Well,
already-
that's what I said, we're trying to come up with that reasonable
Sure.
application. We don't want to have to go into the engineering, grease trap system, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of what
Well, not every truck is gonna have grease.
No,
So one of
exactly.
like one of the trucks that's on site now, it's all prepackaged.
Right.
There's not
So
anything,
there's no grease waste.
there's no grease waste at all. There's no waste, it's a packaging. As an example. And so, there's the opportunity to have other companies service that. That will just come and clean them on a regular basis.
Sure.
And so that is the intent.
I think it's kind of where we were as far as kind of determine what that,
Yeah,
how to present that to you, so to speak.
absolutely.
Yeah, and then the other big thing was backflow prevention on the hose bibs over there, which is a very simple $60-$10.
Yeah, we're happy to do that too.
Yeah,
Again, we want to do what's code required, not just do something.
maybe just some acquisitions through the state, so we're gonna do it.
And based on the intended use, it sounds like it would be beneficial to discuss doing a per spot fee as opposed to a per trailer, individual trailer fee.
So I think is what you're asking for is 8 spots, correct, on the property?
Yeah, so I'll address that if it's okay. The reason we're asking for that is my current setup, starting tomorrow, I'll have 3. So every single month, I have 3 separate days of the month. And then eventually, if we have 8, I'll have 8 varying days of the month where I have to remember which permit to renew. And I could make that the responsibility of each of the food trailers, but in order to be a successful food trailer park owner, I need to make sure that they're actually all current and renewed. And I don't want anybody to walk up to a food trailer park and it missed by a day. And so that's something that's just an administrative nightmare. So that's why we're asking for that.
So we had a couple weeks ago, and this was one of the items that we discussed in the workshop. And I think it's what we understood was you're looking for 8 spots. Therefore, if in spot number 2, if that guy only wants to be there 3 days this month, he can pull out and you can pull another trailer back into spot number 2, and without having to go through the whole permitting process at City Hall. You still have to provide all this
All the
required
documents, yes.
information. It's still required. Food handling, something that you will be providing as property owner to our permitting department, rather than our permitting department be just, overwhelmed with so many,
Streamline
if
for
you
you
change it out.
and the permit department.
Right, so I created a Google Drive with rows so that every food trailer spot has a folder, and in every folder is a would handle, not the city, the county. Their driver's license, their menu, all the 5 things that are on that list. So at any point, if there's a food trailer in parking space 1, Rose can go look and see that all 5 things are in the space left.
So I think one way we determined how to keep tabs of it all and everything is once you send that information in Google Drive to Rose, then she will review documents and send back anything that is lacking or still needed. And then in back, like a final permit number that you would, do we want to do that where we give okay, so you have, you're basically getting 8 spots from the city. Okay, then the city would give you a stack of or even something that you could print off on site or at your office. And then when she sends it back to you, you can hit print, you print it off, put it in the window, and then, it's like lot number 2, or you tell us parking spot number, and then you tell us, that way our code compliance fellow, is that what we call it?
No.
Is it individual permits for each one, or do you have one permit and subcategories for each spot?
It would be individual permits for each trailer is going to have in the window this the permit in the window. Therefore, if citizens or health our permit or not permit our code compliance fellow comes by, they know that everything's
They meet the criteria.
everything's already been checked. All boxes have been checked.
Park have a permit, and each one of those pieces of paper is a sub-permit of the one.
Yes, so.
I'm saying like spot 01
So
dash.
my thought, the name of your business is Lumberyard. Okay, is like my thought on it was like, LY-001. LY-tab. Therefore, you can go to permit number 001 for the lumberyard, because if another, if Tom Jones wants to open up a food trailer park across town, then then we got TJ, Tom Jones Food Trailer Park, TJ-001. You know what I'm saying? Pretty simple, very simple. And then that she can keep that Google Drive. You can keep it going. She clicks on 001, and everything loads up. There you got all this information. You've got the permit there. You've got simple.
Yeah.
And then Mo can even. This is a
I
simple.
think it just makes it a little more streamlined,
Yeah.
a little bit easier.
And so what do we need to do here? We need to set a price per spot, or the ordinance. Because this is still Round Rock literature.
So we need to.
Change the logo.
Mhm.
Well, we were looking at an annual price, correct?
An annual, yes, sir, it was,
It was $1,200 or something like that a year.
we talked about doing a graduated program.
Yeah.
For the initial fairly low, that way it helps start it up, and then it gradually increases on an annual basis to a final point. I'm sorry,
We were talking about 4, 8, 12, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah, we want
For the
success.
year.
We want our businesses that open up in Bartlett to be successful. And so we don't want to sting them right up front with like some high dollar craziness. We want to give them opportunity to come in here and get established before we sting them with craziness. So there is 1 or 2 things in here that we'll scratch out, like no more than 2 MFEs are permitted on sites less than 1 acre.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
needs to
I
go.
think that can probably be scratched out.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
You mentioned $1,200. Is that? Okay.
That'd be your total. Yeah.
The
What
4,
we're
8, 12
talking-
then.
She's like,
We're
I'll just
talking
stick with the
about
$25
graduate,
permit.
not giving you-
And that's just
So it's just 400
Just
total for the
gradual.
first year for all
Yeah.
the spots.
Because that's what he
And
was
then every
saying.
year
We
the second year.
we want it to be successful, and we don't want to hit you or anybody right there at the front. So
We're just trying to clarify.
you got like 3 trailers. We sit at
If you're smart.
that first year, and then next
Give
year,
them-
we just keep going.
In 2 years. We may not be here, the next people in office may have some completely different, and we don't want to put something on them that is, they have to go back and look at a whole bunch of minutes. So Y'all's choice. You're the council, you're the voters. Let's do this. Let's get some food in Barton. Let's do this.
We're trying, folks.
You're doing a good job. It looks beautiful over there, by the way.
Okay.
It's really looking
Now
nice.
help me out with my motion. I make a motion that we approve,
Well,
or what are you telling me? Go ahead.
I'd recommend that we bring it back at the next meeting of city council. That doesn't have to be the next special call meeting, or it doesn't have to be the next regular meeting. It can be just the next meeting period that we have council, for final consideration and adoption.
Are
And,
we
and I'll,
sure? Okay.
and I'll
where
clean
we
up, and I've
clean
got
up
all
this?
these.
We'll do it in the meantime.
Okay, I make a motion that we bring this to the
Then should we just do
next,
the regular process that we already have started?
But in the interim, they're gonna have to follow the process we have.
The current process, yes.
So-
Process.
we bring this back to our next meeting, whether that be a special called meeting, okay?
Whatever our next meeting is. If we
Yeah,
have to call a
whatever
special
it
call meeting
is.
between now and the next regular.
Yeah.
Which we may very well have to by the end of this
Yeah.
month.
And he's gonna clean this up. So at this point, you would follow the guidelines that are
Already in
that are in place right now. Until we get this.
Well, we're setting a precedent here for the future as well, so we need to
Absolutely.
really be sure.
Yes,
Should I
yes.
follow all the right processes?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so did you get my motion?
Motion
That
to,
we bring this back to the next scheduled meeting? To,
I will say though, Mr. Jones brought up a good thought. I noticed I don't know how your entry is gonna be into the food trailer, like, I would just be concerned, because we do have a fence, perimeter fence around our department entry in case of an emergency, like fire. Let's say somebody has a grease fire or something like that. How,
So we can answer that in lots of different ways. So that front gate actually just slides. So
Okay.
there's a front gate entry in case of emergency. There's side parking all down the side here that connects to the utility building. There's a huge wide entrance and there's a side entry into the side. So if an ambulance needed to get through, there's plenty of access there. And then just around the back of the building, there's a huge entrance.
okay,
And then where the 3 cottages are around the back, there's an entrance. And
fire marshal will inspect this because you have, it's multi-use,
Part of
property.
the CO process.
Yes, part of the CO process, so we
Yeah.
just want to make sure that,
the only reason that the fence has been left there is because ultimately the hope is that there'll be a playground. We've submitted a permit for that, we're waiting for feedback on it. And so of course you don't want your children to run free into the street.
makes
So,
sense.
we haven't torn it all down because we're waiting on that piece. So
well, I can tell you this, that the fire department is not interested in, not that, we will advise them of, where these open spots are, but I mean,
Thank you, Chief Cooper.
yeah, I mean, yeah, they're not, they don't wanna do that, but if you're on fire.
But they will if they
they're
have to.
coming in.
Right.
Okay.
it just slides, it just slides right.
Okay,
I had to do that one night with them.
yeah,
There's plenty of access.
okay,
But
okay,
great question. I'm glad people are thinking.
Yeah, we just want, life safety is obviously number one, always and foremost.
As is
Yeah.
and ours.
And I knew you wouldn't have an issue with it, but as you build out, one thing means of egress. And if they pull a fire department, if a fire truck in, they're not gonna wanna back that out. It's gonna have to do a circle.
There's a pass through straight through the back.
Sounds like you're ahead. Good job. I just, things I've been through, so.
okay, I'm ready.
All right, let's do this.
I make a motion that we table this until the next scheduled meeting, whether that be a special call meeting or the next monthly meeting.
Okay.
Okay, got it?
Ms. Cooper has made a motion to table this, to clean it up. And then Philip, second. All in favor? So that means for the time being, we're still operating on our current ordinance, which is $25 per food truck for a month. So, cool. Thank you all for understanding. Okay, moving on. Item number 14, discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to developing an MOU with the residential developer and the city.
Yes. Mayor, thank you, Mayor, City Council. So if you recall, we've been in very preliminary discussions with a residential developer in our area. And the city's current comprehensive plan, which was completed back in 2005, references a subdivision ordinance that a number of pages. And typically a subdivision ordinance will guide the development of any new subdivisions with the city, at least that we can gather. There is no guiding document for developments. So one thing that we've spoken with regarding the city attorney was the first one is we were able to identify the 2005 subdivision ordinance, and we reviewed that with the city attorney's office, and they have advised us that it is very outdated, and it would be detrimental to the city to adopt the 2005 subdivision ordinance. That it would cost roughly $15,000 to draft a completely new subdivision ordinance, top to bottom. And so at that time, that's a pretty costly measure for one, granted, very significant ordinance, but for, again, one ordinance in and of itself. When there are avenues that can be explored that will help essentially share the cost of developing that ordinance. So what the city attorney has advised, the next step that we can proceed with is discussing and entering into what she described as a memorandum of understanding. And what you see in your agenda packet is essentially a draft of what that is. And the city attorney has advised that that is a non-binding document. It's just essentially gathering the principles of such agreement and understanding between a developer and the city. And at that point, we will bring back to council that MOU once we have a chance to discuss it with the developer. The next step would also be to see a land use plan. So what is the intended use of that land? And then where we really want to get to is what's called a development agreement. And the development agreement is a binding agreement between the city and the developer that would then outline all of the building requirements that you would typically see in a subdivision ordinance. And there are a number of other factors at play here, including our lack of an impact fee on the utility side, which is detrimental to us. I mean, that's lost revenue. And whenever you have big developments or items coming online to your infrastructure, you need to start planning to upgrade that infrastructure for increased capacity. So that's what your utility impact fee typically covers. Since we don't have one, we're going to have to be pretty thorough in this development agreement to ensure that the city is not only protected, but ensures that any cost of this development is shared equally and fairly and protects the citizens, the current citizens of the city. So, all we really, outside of that, before I kind of close it out, are there any questions from city?
So basically, we're going to work with the developer when it comes about to help develop our plans.
Right. So the first step would be with the MOU, understand the principles of what's going to happen moving forward, get that approved from both the developer and city council, and we'll discuss, consider the proposed land use. Then at that point, we'll start working on the development agreement. And as we work on the development agreement, one component of that is typically the developer will pay for the city's cost incurred for engineering and legal associated with that particular development. The city could draft essentially the meat and potatoes of a subdivision ordinance through the development agreement at the cost of the developer. And again, that's a standard procedure for most cities anyhow, so it's a straightforward process there. But it's a way that we can circumvent not having a subdivision ordinance currently while still applying it in principle. So that again protects the city. And as we continue this conversation about any potential developments, we'll talk about additional financing methods. It's not just for the city, it's public improvement district. You're talking about MUDs, municipal utility district, and good old fashioned bonds. Well, you actually could, council, approve mayor and myself to move forward with developing an MOU with the developer. That'd be done.
I'll make that motion.
How about I second that?
Sure.
We got a, Philip Weaver has a motion on the table to allow Joseph and myself to meet with city attorney and developer to develop this, MOU between developer and city. Vicky has seconded that motion. All in favor? Carried 4-0.
Excuse me, comment, Mr. Mayor. If I step away to get a cup of coffee, is that gonna break up our?
No, we still have to.
I'm good?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, moving on, item number 15. Better wait long enough.
Sorry.
Discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to awarding engineering services to MRD Group for Texas Water Development Board Clean Water State Revolving Fund project. So with, the city, a while back, we spoke on this before, the city a while back has applications, one for, clean water and one for, drinking water, I believe. The clean water would be your wastewater, and your drinking water is obviously your drinking water. We did score high enough on the clean water state revolving fund to be funded, correct?
Just barely made top 25, and we were number 25.
So we were number 25 out of a whole. This is on the water.
This is waste.
This Janet, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a $15 million $78,000 project for the city of Bartlett, right?
And
Wastewater treatment. It covers wastewater treatment plant, some other things. 10,000 linear feet of plate pipe replacement, 20 some odd manholes replaced, a couple of lift station upgrades here and there, a couple other little items in there as well. All this for our wastewater system in the city of Bartlett. This is fantastic. We scored high enough. We're in the funding. What is the loan forgiveness?
It'll be $10 million is loan forgiveness.
So that would be about, of the 15 million and some change, about 66% of that 15 million will be essentially loan forgiveness. And the city will only be on the hook for the remaining balance of that. And that can be spread out over 30 years. 20. All we're doing tonight is we went out to bid for procurement. We went out for procurement for engineering services and also bond counsel, which is later on the agenda, and the financial advisor. Ms. Janet is here representing MRB Group, who is also the city engineer, the current city engineer office. But in their statement of qualifications, they do have a depth of experience with these projects. And our recent experience with MRB has been very outstanding. So they've represented us well in all of our projects with them. And so it is staff's recommendation that council approve Clean Water State Revolving Fund project. Just need a motion to award MRB Group engineering services.
I make a motion to accept that proposal.
Philip made the motion. Dale has seconded that motion. All in favor? Carried 4-0. We'll be in talks to you real soon. I know we have a meeting Monday night, right?
The hearing,
For the
Oh, yes,
the 19th,
on the flood infrastructure.
FIA, yeah. So we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yes.
next week. So that was Mayor Pro Tem Weaver makes a motion for what engineering to MRB Group. Councilman James seconds.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Janet. All right,
More money.
Yeah. Love
doing a
it.
good job. Appreciate you. Item number 16, discuss.
Doesn't matter. Chairman doesn't.
Item 16, discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to awarding bond counsel services to Bickerstaff Heath Delgado Acosta LLP.
It is staff recommendation that city council award bond counsel to Bickerstaff. If you recall, Bickerstaff was the bond counsel firm that the city utilized during our 2021 limited tax notes issuance. They did an outstanding job. If you recall, that issuance had its challenges, but they saw us through each phase of that, and we've had a great experience with them. We had two applications or two submittals for this particular.
Same thing, we'll need a motion and a second.
Make a motion that we award bond counsel services to Bickerstaff Heath Delgado Acosta LLP for Texas Water Development Board Clean Water State Revolving Fund.
Who's made a motion? Mr. Williams, the second. All in favor? 4-0, success tomorrow. 16, 17, discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to awarding financial advisory services to Specialized Public Finance Incorporated for the Texas Water Development Board Clean Water State Revolving Fund project. Same thing. Now we're talking about the financial services.
The financial advisor will help us in the selling of any debt issuance that we need. They will advise us on market interest rates and what level of issuance we incorporate. So, Specialized Public Finance is also a great firm. I believe this one we also received two submittals, and of the two, Specialized not only has the depth of experience, but we also have the personal experience with them. They've helped us on a number of occasions, and this is also the same financial advisor firm that helped us through the 2021 limited tax notes issuance as well. They've done a great job for us.
Same thing. All in favor? 4-0 as well.
For letters in it. Letters.
Guys, y'all mind if I move item 21 up so Miss Jennifer can get on the road to her house? Sorry. Thank you, Miss Janet. Be safe. We'll see you soon. Y'all mind if we move 21 in front of 18? Item 21, discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to identifying parcels and setting hearing dates for city-initiated rezone regarding potential rezone of B3 general business and R3 manufactured homes to B1 retail business district in the downtown area and the general intersection of West Clark Street and West French Street.
Yes. Let me open that real quick.
And she did sign up to speak on this issue. So we see.
I'm going to pull up the computer. Sorry, 1 second while I pull this up for you guys.
Sorry, since I went out of order, Joseph has to move down a little bit.
No. Zoning map is what I'm doing. If you pull up the zoning map, that's what we'll be pulling up. The zoning map is at the beginning of your agenda packet.
You guys have your zoning maps here, the maps of zoning. They're real colorful. Yeah.
Is it like this one or the red one?
We still got
So you want to point out which ones, here, I got the pointer if you want.
So the B1 retail is downtown.
Yes, there's a B1 downtown.
Okay, so just so, this is your downtown buildings right here. This is Clark Street. Dalton is Highway 95. And so this is your downtown district. Here's the railroad. Now we're back on this side. This is the area we're talking about here. So this is actually what we know as the lumber yard right here. This would be the utility building, City Hall, and these buildings right next to those buildings right there are on this corner right here. This is Front Street, Park Street. So the buildings that, okay, so where Miss Jennifer's lumberyard is these right here. So right now, it's actually zoned two different zones.
One of our buildings stretches across two different zones.
I've got it pulled up here for you. I'm about to
So the big
build it.
lumberyard
The big
building
long
right,
lumberyard.
right here. And it comes in two different ones. Obviously been there many years.
Long before these,
What the city's initiating would be to extend what we have downtown and the buildings downtown to this side of the tracks to cover your entire property and all the way basically to Emma Street. And right here, the alley, this side, that would cover the buildings next door and City Hall as well to Emma Street. Emma's right here.
and would that basically be a mixed use?
Yes. The zoning ordinance the city has that
Is that what you need?
that incorporates a mixed use availability. As of right now, it's either the top half of that lot, as it is currently mapped, is permitted for only business, a certain level of business. The bottom half is residential only.
So we're gonna make that mixed use as well.
Just the whole
That's
thing.
all consistent.
The whole
You know,
thing.
maybe navy blue.
So see, like all this downtown district right here,
So
as
that's,
we extend that over to from here.
Because it is basically an extension of downtown.
Yeah, that wouldn't include the other lots, did it?
I believe it would just be
Just
that one right
Just
there.
the
Yep. That
Just the-
sliver right. Yep,
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
like an L, upside down.
So from here, this is first fire department. Here's right here.
That's City Hall. Those are the Tribune buildings.
This is an alley.
Mhm.
And back to French Street. All the way to Beach Street.
Right.
Stop right there. Come back. Go this way.
Yes.
That would include City Hall, the Tribune building, and the other building right there. The utility, power plant across the street, the lumber yard, and the back half of the lumber yard. All from the B3, I believe is what that is, B2, if I'm not mistaken. From B2 and R3 to all of it B1. City Attorney's Office, who has stated that this is, it is feasible, it is a feasibility to extend that, and it would not be considered spot zoning as it's currently understood through the rendering of legal opinions. The next step would be, once we've identified the parcels, which we've done here, if you actually give me a minute, I'll have to list them out. About almost 2 blocks in the aggregate in total. But then they can give a more definitive answer as opposed to if it's spot zone. But their initial opinion is it's feasible, yes, we can move forward. And so in the same respect, as any granting variance or special exception, what have you, we'll also need to send out notice of public hearing for rezone. So very similar to a previous agenda item. Again, let me list out the parcels first before we make the final motion. But we'll also set the date for what I would recommend, October 11th.
Same night as the previous one.
We can do 7 p.m. for that one, which was plenty of time for the other day. But
You want to do it at 6:30? You did the other one at 6.
if you guys want to discuss, let me do the parcels for you guys, and then we can.
We gotta pull up the parcel numbers and list those before we make the motion. Yes, ma'am.
There's a little teeny tiny sliver of 118 Peach Street. It's the back half of the lumberyard.
Yeah.
But it's platted in there. I own it, but just don't forget it.
Little guy.
I may have to come back to this. His address is called 118 Peach Street, but
So it's the R007536 parcel, and it's the R007537 parcel. It's also the utility building parcel. And back here, those are R327682. 327682. Then Bellcat parcels. Am I missing anything on the Williamson County side?
We got, there's a 4 parcels or 3.
I believe it's 3, right? This one, this one, this one.
Yeah, one in the corner. Got a separate parcel.
This one here, we got it. 1, 2, and then 2 City Hall.
City Hall.
So what do you call it, City Hall and?
I'll have the numbers for you.
Did you say Bellcat parcels? Did you say Bellcat
I'm
parcels?
about to list those off.
Yeah, you have that side of the street is
Okay,
Williams County, this side is Bell.
okay, gotcha, gotcha.
What's that? Can you see the park? Oh, property ID right there.
20384.
20384. That's ours. I don't know what these are. 208383. Yeah, that's highlighted. Next one is Tribune. And this is zero. Okay, so I don't even need to put that on.
Let's take my flag over there.
Okay.
It's the alley back there behind the building.
So the motion that we'll need from council for the hearing for got it here. October 11th at a certain time. If you recall, we have a previously scheduled hearing at 6 p.m. on the same date.
For 6:30 and 11.
And to include the following parcels, which I'll list out.
Gotcha, you got
I've
it.
already got those, right?
And let me repeat the motion for somebody's second.
That's October when? Make that motion.
Let me repeat it for you. I have Mayor Pro Tem Weaver make the motion to set the hearing time and date for October 11th at 6:30 PM for the following county appraisal parcel IDs: Belcad 19815810449, 20384, 20383, and WCAD parcels R327682, R007536. So just need a second.
We made the motion was Philip, second was Vicky. All in favor? Carries 4-0. Do you have any other comments on that, Ms. King? All right, I should have checked before we went through all the motions.
That's okay, you answered our questions, and, I think that makes the most sense, considering the fact that the buildings have been there as long as they have, and the proposed plans and the revenue that will be generated from those buildings. Yes, it's gonna be a part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you for your patience tonight. It's looking great over there, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. There's still got a lot to do, and we appreciate it.
All right, going back, that was item 21, we're going back to 18 now. Discuss, review, and take any necessary action related to appointing vacant municipal development district board of directors position.
Mayor, City Council, as you see in your agenda packet, there were 2 applications, and the letters for consideration is what was included in your packet. One was for a Mr. Mike Cooper, and one is for a Candy Gaddison, excuse me. Period is Miss Candy Gaddison. Again, his letter is in the agenda packet. And if you recall, this is for the vacant 5th position on the MDD that was newly approved in their bylaws over the summer.
Anybody got any discussion?
I believe it's a 1-year term.
You got one candidate here, guys. You want to discuss this one?
So this would be for a 1-year term with this term to expire at February of 2023. And that is just because that aligns with the other terms of the other members of the NPD. So you'll have 2 2-year terms and 3 1-year terms.
And at that time, you can either appoint new members or reappoint.
February 2023.
So she's only, she's only for me. Okay.
Any questions on Ms. Gaddison? Ms. Candy?
Do I need to make a motion, or is
She is not here. Her daughter had a volleyball game tonight.
We do need to.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Katie Gaddison to the Municipal Development District. She's on a 1-year term. It would expire in February 2023.
Speaker's made a motion to appoint Candy Gaddison to vacant. Second, all in favor? Congratulations, Miss. All right, number 19, discuss, review, take any necessary action related to appointing vacant Painter Memorial Library Board of Trustees position. Same thing, we got a vacancy on the board. We got an application period. We've only received 1 application during that period. And that would be from Ms. Susan Weaver, who has basically already been working extremely hard with alongside Ms. Phaedra and some other great volunteers within that library and the shape, and it looks amazing. I went by today, Phaedra. It looks awesome. So,
We would have seen your daughter a book if she needed a book, but I figured
yeah,
adult children, she had.
yeah, they have all kinds of stuff coming in, believe me. Any discussion needed for Ms. Weaver?
I'd like to nominate Susan Weaver to, the vacant time at Memorial Library Board.
A position at the Tyner Memorial Library, which is a 3-year term.
You're locked in.
It was 6 months, didn't it?
3-year term. With a Gail Jones has seconded that 3 times for me. All in favor? 0 with a abstain from.
So with Vicky made a motion.
Vicky made a motion, Mr. Jones seconded that.
Perfect. Got it.
All right. And 20, discuss review take library beanbags to the local Head Start facility. So during the reshuffling, remodeling, reconfiguring of the library,
Assessing,
sorry,
assessing the current needs.
assessing the current needs, they have chose to ask council to, there were some large, rather large beanbags in there, doesn't quite fit
The new kids can.
in the new kids' cave. So they're asking if we, the city,
They're in great shape, they're just huge, and there's no way that one through, by the time you have a table there, and all those church tables are being.
About 8 or 10 of them.
so it's something that can be passed on down the street to the, it can be used daily down at the Head Start. And I don't know if you were about the Head Start, but it's a really, they do an awesome job. So, I see no issue with this. So Weaver has made that motion to donate these to Head Start.
Second. Jesse second.
Jesse, you second? Jesse seconded?
Speak up.
We have a Mr. Weaver motion with a Jesse Lunick second. All in favor? 0, that carries. Right, item number 22. We moved 21 already out of the way. 22. To discuss refusing personnel manual to include emergency callback pay provision. Y'all recall this is something that we met a couple months ago to talk about when we call our guys back in after hours to provide emergency callback pay. Mr. Joseph, you got anything?
Yes. Yes, sir. This has already been vetted by the city attorney for this particular portion. We'll continue to bring personnel manual updates to city council. Some are required from the COVID area, experience another FEMA event. We'll have to have specific pay types, such as I believe it's emergency pay or something to that effect. And those will be eligible for reimbursement. We learned that lesson the hard way for Winter Storm Uri. But this particular one is just related to the emergency callback pay provision, and it is just pertaining in the motion. We would recommend that it only pertains to the electric department, as that is an industry standard, and based off of the quantity of water and wastewater callbacks that the city receives, it would be an extreme financial burden to include it across all departments.
Any discussion, comments?
Oh, we just need to, need a motion, emergency callback pay provision, for the electric department. That's the motion.
That's not this check.
That is, Matthew.
You got a motion?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Philip has made a motion to approve the amended new personnel manual to include emergency callback pay provision for the electric department.
I'll second.
Mr. Hickey, please for second. All in favor? That motion carries 4-0. No, any future agenda items?
Library,
Is it for council or is it?
yeah, people, looking for us to sell, PCs for adults. Since they're.
Approved sale of library,
It's okay for
approved sale of library DVDs as fundraiser.
I kind of had
She's
that
like,
go.
what kind of movie do I?
Can you tell about these?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm good.
So spread the word on $1 a piece.
Hot diggity.
We'll follow up with our legal and make sure that it's.
There's your wastewater plant right there.
There you go, there you go.
Off the board. No, I'm kidding. We'll check it later. Any other future items? No other future items? Nothing? Speak now, viewers.
We are gonna need another person on the cemetery committee. We need somebody local that knows something about the cemetery. Larry Bridgman's name is not up there, which he's in it.
It should be on
Oh, these.
Y'all hear anybody?
there. Review city cemetery committee member.
That standard said you couldn't make it to the meeting, is that right? Right?
Correct.
Right. So we need, we have to have somebody.
Are you staying on there? Are you gonna resign? Or are you gonna?
I'm staying on there
Perfect.
to,
Thank you.
work on the Texas Historic Cemetery designation.
Need somebody, to do something out there, trim trees beside Margaret.
Trips and hops out there, and it's like a dark.
Oh, no.
Severe
I don't know
confusion.
if this needs to be an agenda item or not, but with the website, the city website, it might be interesting if we were able to maybe pick somebody from the library board or something, to actually be an information officer that can put in information for like cemetery committee, so forth, so on. Approve the content, and then it could be put into the website. That would be something to do once a month. Maybe that need to be an agenda item, not.
More important to.
Truly, I mean, we gotta, everything can't fall on you.
Yeah. We can work on that and bring it back to council under one of the board updates.
Kind of stuff, and I think if we had some people kind of dedicated to that, we'd be able to present more and more to the public through the website.
Mhm.
And that matters.
Is it my turn? Is it
Any
my-
other future agenda items?
The one I would just want to say is possibly add to Bill's list to get an official easement drafted by when they go for that road. There is not on our. There's no legal easement for it.
All right. Any others? We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn. Y'all know that's my job.
We didn't know what to do a couple of weeks ago.
I like that.
Ms. Cooper made a motion to adjourn. We will call the meeting at 9:11.
Is there somebody that's taking?
I know, we were thinking it should be like 12:30, but
Do we have a second for that motion?
Sorry.
We'll call the meeting at 9:12 p.m. I see 22 items.
God, I can't believe it.
They came from the library. They came from the library.
They came from the library. So what you're saying
Yeah,
is,
take them out.
I can take them back to the library.
That's where it came from.
Did that chair come